I was born a devil. At 3, I killed animals for fun. At 7, I killed a person. My family, terrified of what I might become, locked me away in a psychiatric institution. 12 years later, my gentle twin brother took his own life. My mother came to sign me out. The moment the asylum gates closed behind us, she turned to me with eyes that had burned dry long ago. If you really are what they say, then use it. Make every last person who tormented your brother pay. Our family carries an old superstition, recorded in our ancestral books. Whenever twins are born, one child is destined to be a devil. In ancient times, they solved it by burning both alive. Modern laws prevented that, so my brother and I grew up side by side. For the first few years, everyone adored us, 2 little boys with matching faces. But the whisper was always there. One twin must be cursed. One must be dangerous. No twins had been born in our family for more than 3 centuries. People treated us like omens. When I was 3, a goose snapped at me in the fields. I caught it with both hands, sank my teeth into its throat, and ripped. Blood sprayed across my face. I dragged the carcass home and proudly suggested we roast it for dinner. The story spread fast: demon child, unholy twin. Yet because witnesses saw the goose attack first, the village elders brushed it off. They simply warned my parents to keep a closer eye on me. After that, any animal that tried to scratch or bite me ended up dead in ways that made my parents sick. They lost count of how many times they had to compensate neighbors. When I was 5, the local bully and his friends cornered me, chanting monster. I nearly beat him to death. Adults pulled me off him just in time. They locked me in my room afterward. My twin brother, Jack, was the only one allowed near me. He sat with me every day, telling stories from school and teaching me letters. He said that when I learned to read, I would be able to live inside novels. He was my only link to the world. Then, when I was 7, I heard my mother sobbing. Jack had been attacked again, this time so brutally that the tendons in his right arm were ruined. The doctor said he would probably never lift anything heavier than a bowl again. That night, I broke the window latch and left. They found me at the bully's house. He was dead, and I was covered in blood that wasn't mine. His parents had beaten me within inches of my life, but I was grinning when my family arrived. I avenged Jack, I told them proudly. Nobody smiled back. The sight of a small, blood-soaked child smiling like that made even the police flinch. Because of my age, they didn't send me to prison. They sent me to a psychiatric hospital instead. Jack visited me every weekend for 12 years. He always brought snacks, books, and new words for me to learn. He told me the stories I could not witness myself. Then one weekend passed with no sign of him, then another. After 6 weeks, my mother came instead. I barely recognized her. She looked hollow, pale, nothing like the woman who had once wept when I was taken away. Without a word, she signed the release papers. Maybe the staff believed my good behavior made me safe. Maybe they were tired of arguing with her. On the way home, she kept her eyes on the road, saying nothing. I simply watched her. The moment we stepped into the yard, the scent of bitter herbs washed over me. "Your father is bedridden," she said. His spine was crushed. He has not walked in 2 years. I laughed softly. Father? The man who would not even kill a mosquito. She didn't respond. She walked straight to Jack's room. A sheet covered the still shape on the bed. I froze. Slowly, I lifted it. Jack's face had gone cold and blue. His neck was marked by bruises shaped like fingers, and thin, torn scratches lined his skin. When I pulled back the sheet further, I saw scars carved all over his torso, some healed, some half-healed, some infected. My mother stood beside me in silence. She had no tears left to cry. "If you truly are a devil," she whispered, "then take revenge on every single one of them. If you resent me for locking you away, then kill me too." "Names," I said. She told me everything, each word dripping with hatred. The family of the boy I killed never let their grudge go. They and their friends turned the entire village against us. They beat Jack whenever they felt like it. They dragged him home stripped of his clothes, burned him with cigarettes, carved humiliating words into his skin. When the wounds healed, they carved them again. The village elders told us not to stir trouble. Eventually, my father tried to protect Jack, but they overwhelmed him. They shattered his spine. The elders forced a small fine on the attackers. No police. No justice. They warned my parents that if they ever appealed to the authorities, they would be driven out of the village because they had produced a devil. After my father became paralyzed, The cruelty only intensified. Jack, too kind to fight back, drank pesticide. I stared at his cold body, feeling something warm spark inside me. So, I am free to act however I want, I said. Yes, my mother screamed, her voice breaking into a feral howl. I want them dead. Every last one. I stroked Jack's hair gently. Brother, I said with a smile, from now on, I will live for you. And this is going to be entertaining. My mother kept Jack's body frozen, unable to bury him. I put on his clothes and slipped into his identity. Jack had 11 cigarette burns. I heated one of my father's cigarettes and pressed it into my own skin, recreating each mark in the exact same place, without changing expression. My mother watched, and for once, she did not look disgusted. Relief softened her face. Pride even. After the wounds began to heal, I cut my hair to match Jack's and dressed in his usual shirts and pants. When I walked into the kitchen, my mother whispered his name before she caught herself. Mom, I am going to the workshop, I said in Jack's calm voice. She nodded as if in a trance. The carpentry shop smelled of sawdust and old lumber. The village master carpenter, over 60 and still strong, looked up when I entered. He cared about Jack more than most. Jack, child, I heard Chin the First bothered you again, he said, pushing up his glasses. Rest if you need to. I will not deduct your pay. I'm fine, master, I said, smiling gently. Let me work. He handed me a plane. I shaped the wood the way Jack used to, slow and steady. Another apprentice, Yang, arrived later. His eyes widened when he saw me. Jack, I heard Chin harassed you again. That guy is crossing lines. It's over, I replied lightly. Let's work. He nodded but seemed uneasy. Half an hour later, he slipped out. Yang rushed to the village's resort, the pride of the community. It was owned and run by Chin the First and his group of friends. Yang entered quietly. Boss Chun, Jack is back. Looks totally fine. Chun laughed. Good. Means he can take more. One of the men snickered. What about branding him with the resort logo? Let him advertise us, wherever he goes. Chun clapped his hands. Brilliant. Call the blacksmith. Then he slapped Yang on the shoulder. Nice work. Next time we drink, you sit with us. Thank you, Boss Chun, Yang said, glowing. On his way back, he found me waiting under a tree, carving a branch with a small knife. He yelped when he saw me. Yang, you look pleased, I said, tilting my head. He went pale. Jack, why are you here? I smiled softly. I can smell blood on you. And yours, it smells delicious. Yang staggered back. What do you want? He tried to run. I threw the small blade. It sliced into his calf. He hit the ground screaming. Do you know who I work for? He sobbed. Chin will kill you. I drove a wooden stake through his palm and hammered it into the soil. His howl echoed through the trees. Another stake pinned his other hand. He begged, cried, promised anything. When he was spread on the ground, arms stretched like a crude crucifix, I lifted the final stake. He shook violently. Please, ancestor, spare me. I leaned close. Jack died, so I could wake up. You open the cage. His face twisted in horror. You're the devil. I pressed the stake to his lips. A scream began, then was swallowed. A moment later, crows circled. I wiped my hands and returned to work as if nothing happened. By noon, the village buzzed with chaos. Yang's body was found. People gagged at the sight. No one suspected Jack, the quiet boy they all tormented. That night, Yang's mother blamed the master. Yang's sister spat at me, called me a monster, said the village should have burned the twins at birth. I smiled and asked quietly, how do you want to die? Her rage cracked. She backed away, then screamed that I had touched her inappropriately. Her father slapped me hard. I didn't react. They poured all their frustration on me like they used to with Jack. When they finished, I carried Yang's corpse into the coffin. They made me stand outside as punishment. At midnight, I overheard noises. I peeked through the curtain and saw Yang's sister with Chin the First, already undressing. They talked about framing me, burying me alive, milking compensation money. Then the room burst into flames. Someone had drenched the place in fuel. They panicked. The windows were boarded from outside, the door chained. Chun smashed the window and jumped. I met him with a blow to the skull. The sister saw me and begged for her life, offering everything. She tried seduction, lies, and promises. I corrected her gently. Jack loved you. I'm not Jack. Her fear was absolute. I pushed her into the fire. Yang's parents ran out. The father charged. I cracked his skull. The mother froze in terror. I dragged both parents into the coffin with their son and sealed it tight. Their screams faded to scratches, then nothing. Chun lay near the burning house. I walked past him and left the flames behind. When I returned home, my mother was waiting in the main room. She smiled faintly and pointed at the steaming dishes on the table. Hungry, right? Eat. I nodded and dug in without hesitation. If your brother had even a fraction of your resolve, he wouldn't have ended up like that, she said with a soft laugh. I kept quiet. If we had fought harder for you back then, maybe no one would have dared to trample us. She sighed. Kind people always get stepped on. She drifted into her own thoughts. When I finished eating, she cleared the bowls. Go lie down. You must be exhausted. I went to rest in Jack's room. There was no room that belonged to me alone. By morning, the village elders had called an emergency gathering at the ancestral hall. The chief's face was pale. Last night, the Yang family was found dead. The daughter burned alive, the parents and Yang locked in a coffin until they suffocated. Whispers spread through the hall. This is monstrous. We will uncover the truth. Another elder added, Chun the first survived, but barely. The doctors say he will not last. The chief's eyes landed on me. You were the only one left alive. Speak. I stepped forward. My master and I delivered the coffin. The Yangs blamed us for everything. You all thought it was normal for them to treat us like dogs. People looked at the floor. Get to the point, the chief said. They beat me, then made me watch the coffin while they slept. Around midnight, Chun the first sneaked into the daughter's room. I don't need to explain what happened in there. Angry murmurs filled the hall. Many men had been infatuated with her. Chun Wealth, Chun the first's father, snapped. My son is dying. Who killed them? Jack, you saw something. Where were you? The fire started, so I ran. I answered. Ran? You ran? You lit the fire, didn't you? He screamed. Why would I try to save people who torment me every day? I replied. Your son crippled my father. And you wanted me to risk my life for him? Am I a fool? Silence swallowed the room. They all understood, but no one wanted to say it out loud. Refusing to save them makes you guilty. I'll kill you myself. Chun Wealth charged at me. Others followed. The old patriarch slammed his cane down. Enough. This is the ancestral hall. They backed off, but rage simmered. The patriarch let out a long breath. Chief, continue the investigation. No one outside the village hears about this. The chief questioned everyone. No one suspected me. Everyone believed Jack was harmless, timid, the type who cried when scolded. With no clear answers, the villagers began whispering about angry ghosts. Chun Wealth wouldn't let it go. Jack is the only suspect. Lock him up until he talks. Under pressure, the patriarch nodded. They dragged me into a storage room and bolted the door. Chun Wealth leaned close to the wooden slats. My boy dies, you die. Simple. I ignored him. All the guards here work for me, he added. Locked inside, I heard his voice again. Your brother killed my youngest years ago. I never forgot. Even if you didn't kill my sons, I'll bury you with them. I laughed. You picked on Jack because you were too afraid of Ben. Hurting Jack made you feel powerful. That's right, he said without shame. Even the patriarch feared Ben. He wanted your whole family gone but couldn't do it himself. So he let me handle it. Crippling your father was only step one. It was meant to drive you out or finish you all. Your mother is next. He walked away laughing. A moment later, a wood rasp slid through the vent. No one was there. I tucked it into my sleeve. Someone else wanted blood and had chosen me to spill it. By evening, the door burst open. Chun Wealth's eyes were swollen from crying. My last son is dead. You're going into the ground with him. 2 men rushed me. I watched them approach with cold clarity. As soon as they touched me, I drove the rasp into one man's throat. He collapsed as blood sprayed across the walls. The other froze. Chun Wealth shrieked, You aren't Jack. Jack couldn't do that. You're Ben. I smiled. Correct. I sprang forward. He struggled, but a pampered bully had no chance. I buried the rasp in his chest. He dropped to his knees. Monster should have burned you. He fell. The surviving guard fled. Others who had been keeping watch ran as well. Soon the villagers came in a mob, gripping hoes and machetes. I stepped into the doorway covered in blood. Chunwell's body was nothing but mangled flesh behind me. I lifted half a heart in my hand. He tasted bitter. The crowd screamed, "Ben, the devil." A machete slashed into my shoulder. I turned and stabbed its owner in the throat. He drowned in his own blood. I yanked the machete free and walked toward the patriarch's house, laughing as I went. "Stop him," the patriarch shouted. A hoe swung at me. Too slow. I dodged and cut half the man's skull off. Fear froze the rest. They backed away as I approached the old patriarch. I placed my bloody hand on his shoulder. He shook uncontrollably. "You orchestrated everything, great-grandpa." He couldn't speak. "I should have burned you," he whispered. Too late. I took his head. Then I walked out. Chunwell's home was prepared for the funeral. I entered, leaving red tracks across the floor. His wife and eldest daughter crouched in the corner. I shut the gate behind me. The wife cried, "Jack, if you want my life, take it. Leave my daughter alone." Chunwell forced everything. I tilted my head. "I'm Ben." Her face drained of color. "The demon? You let me out of that hospital. You called me a devil. I'm only proving you right," she shrieked. "No, listen. Your mother's baby died the day you were born. You and Jack aren't even hers." I frowned. "Does that erase what you did to Jack? You pushed him toward death." "The patriarch forced my husband. They're both dead. Now it's only you. You wielded rumors like weapons. Words kill too." I drove the rasp into her throat. Then I turned to the daughter. "When I was 7, you saw me kill your brother. You knew exactly who I was. You shouldn't have tempted fate twice." She tried to run but collapsed from terror. I stabbed her through the temple. Moments later, the chief and a crowd kicked the door open. They froze at the bodies. "Search every house. Find the devil," he shouted. I was already at my master's workshop. He sat there smoking quietly. I placed the bloody rasp on his bench. "Returning this." "I knew you'd survive," he said. Saturday, my mother's real baby died. Your wife was the midwife." His breath caught. "That woman lied." "Did she? Who would kill me over the truth? Or who would I kill?" He trembled. "You smell guilty." "All right," he cried. "You and Jack are twins brought in by the chief. He made my wife switch the babies. Chun the First is your mother's true son." "Why?" "Because your father was next in line for chief. A man with newborn twins could never take the position. They would have burned you all." "So the real snake was the chief," I said. The door burst open. The chief charged in with a musket. "Old Chun, I let you live because you kept quiet. Only corpses stay silent." He fired. The shot tore into my chest. I flung the rasp, hitting his stomach. He screamed and dropped the gun. My master lunged with a scraper, hacking at his neck. "You killed my wife," he roared. The chief ripped the rasp free and stabbed my master in the side. The old man fell. The chief collapsed next, his throat ruined. Both men died staring. I dragged myself home, each step agony. My mother was waiting. She ran to me and held me close. "Ben, my poor boy." My voice trembled. "Mom, you won't send me away again, right?" "No." I was wrong. You and Jack were always my sons. I smiled as everything went black. She carried my body to a chair, then sat beside me. "Are you satisfied?" she whispered toward my ear. She drank from a cup of tea. Men stepped out of the shadows with blades and pitchforks. They relaxed when they saw I was gone. Black streaks ran down my mother's face. "You wanted to burn the village," she murmured to my lifeless body. "So burn with us." The men set the house ablaze. Only then did the village breathe easy, because the devil, at last, was dead.